Hello, I'm Tegan Kiza and welcome to Career Connect, the show where we're speaking to graduates and connecting them to experts so that you can know how to prepare yourself for the graduate world and the professional world when you go out there. In today's show, we're going to be speaking about your brand in the business space and most importantly, how do you have resilience in the space that you work in? Good day, ladies. How are you?
You're good on yourself.
Really good, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me. Please tell me a little bit about yourselves and about what you do.
My name is Sheila Mutlavi. I'm a vet journalism student. I'm 23 years old. I'm not much of a speaker. I'm an introvert. I'm a very shy person. Not really shy, but I'm reserved. Yeah, I keep to myself. Okay. So that's about it.
So this is a big step for you.
It is a very big step. It's a pleasure.
Hi, I'm Joni Petty and I'm the co-founder of the Resilient Energy Centre. So we as a business focus on bringing out the best in the likes of Sheila and people in the workplace.
That's quite interesting. I like that. And I think a lot of times people say, I keep to myself, I'm an introvert, and people automatically think that means you can't be outgoing in certain things. You know, what does it really mean to be an introverted person and to sort of be comfortable with keeping to yourself?
So if we look at our personalities, that's one of the areas we specialize in. It's playing to the strengths of your personality. So there's no overriding need in corporate South Africa, Africa or the world to be extroverted, to be a successful leader, manager, inspiring person. To be introverted is really to understand that introversion and to play to your strengths of that. So if you're quieter, more cognitive, really more private, is to understand that and understand how you fit into your team and how you maximize that within your team. Because what we're looking for high-performing teams is a mixture of the traditional introverts and extroverts. So it really doesn't matter. It's just good to know who you are and to play to your strengths.
True, and another thing about knowing who you are helps you also define your brand in the workspace.
Yes.
How important is it having a clear brand when you're stepping into the workspace as a new graduate and also just trying to climb the career ladder as well?
Yeah, and Suki, it's not important, it's imperative.
Yeah.
So you've got to really understand your value proposition and what you stand for. And that obviously is how you market yourself within the organization. A lot of graduates say to me, Joni, gee whiz, in the last year or 2 years, we've gone through 3 restructures and we are seeing that business pace change is really unprecedented. So you have got to have a strong brand because as restructures, mergers, matrix teams comes about, you've really got to have a look at your brand and how you fit in. And people remember brands, not necessarily CVs or people's names.
Yeah, and being a good brand doesn't necessarily mean being the loudest one and in people's face, but really delivering and doing good work and adding value to the team.
Exactly. So we do find authentic, quiet people add a huge amount of value. And obviously the big stretch for someone like Sheila would be, I know the value that I can add, but I've got to really communicate that in a meeting, even in my quieter way. Do you find that that's a challenge for you?
Yeah, it is. So, I just wanted to ask, how do I brand myself as an introvert? Because I'm very resilient. I keep to myself.
Yes.
And then for me, it's a challenge because I ask myself at all times, how am I going to brand myself as a person and put my foot down?
Yep. So there's many dimensions to branding. It's obviously the look and how you present yourself. But most importantly, I find in corporates is that actions speak louder than words. So the branding is about your value proposition and what you're providing to your team. So your brand is about, if you're saying I'm going to, as a journalist, get that story or get this, whatever you're packaging and putting together, it's being on time, it's being right first time, it's making sure that whatever you deliver is above and beyond expectations. And that's probably the driver of your brand rather than, the look and appeal of the brand.
Sure. And Sheila, for you, as a graduate, also somebody who's still studying and perfecting your craft and deciding where you want to specialize in journalism, I'm sure. What are some of the concerns that you have about creating your brand going into the corporate space?
You know what? The thing about me is that I'm very good behind the scenes, right? So I ask myself every time, if I have to go out there and probably be a presenter or have to step in for someone, how am I going to do that? It's very challenging for me because I'm not really out there, and I ask myself, if the behind the scenes jobs are not there, what am I going to do? What is going to be my second option in terms of me being out there and presenting myself as a brand.
Do you find people sometimes perhaps false diagnose themselves? You know, so I mean, she chose journalism, so obviously she's got interests in asking people questions, going out there, getting information, maybe even writing and putting together the story. You know, but because people aren't loud and boisterous and they don't come across very aggressively in interactions or anything like that, they
Yes.
think that they can't do a certain job. Whereas if you're able to put your words together and put together a sentence and be clear about the point that you want to make, if I put you in front of a camera, you'd be able to say it.
Yeah, I guess.
Sheila, I actually find I've worked a lot in the media skills industry with various journalists, both print, TV and radio journalists. And especially the print journalists, they really have an advantage as a quieter, softly spoken person. So if you are interviewing a head of a business and you come at it, you know, in a quiet, we call it the circling shark approach, where you kind of come around to, you know, asking a few preamble, get the context questions and then go in for the kill, as a shark does. A quieter, more humble person actually gets the real deal, rather than coming to your point. And so if you're coming in aggressively and, you know, kind of being pushy. So I like the point that you make, you horses for courses, is that a quieter person might gravitate to being a newspaper journalist, and if your earlier point of stepping in front of the camera might not be necessary for you.
Now, I want to know, when you're looking at graduates coming into a particular role, and just with your experience working with different companies and different people, what are some of the key elements to have as part of your brand? You know, what does a graduate definitely need to focus on and start working on now, especially as you lead closer to graduation and really starting to look for jobs?
Well, business world is all about collaboration. So your brand has to be that I don't work as a loner. I collaborate very easily across different personality styles and different ways. So collaboration is really important. And then authenticity and honesty. To be able to say, I'm really good at this, but I really am not good at that.
Yeah.
So if you know what you're good at and what you're not good at. And then the third dimension, I would say, is being able to identify people that you're willing to learn from. So who in that business would you have chemistry with to go and be mentored with that person? So as a mentee. And possibly another dimension is, as a graduate, your brand has got to be that I deliver beyond expectations.
Yeah.
So the world of work scopes are changing, but the speed of work is changing.
Well.
So if you can really always honor expectations and deliver beyond, your brand then stands for itself.
That's wonderful, and I think I'm just going to hold it there for now.
Yes.
But when we come back, I really want to go more into that, you know, really understand how do I keep my brand going in the face of difficult circumstances and a lot of changes that do happen in the workplace. For more great content on how to create your brand and also be resilient in your workspace, stay tuned for more of Career Connect. Hi, I'm Sigim Kize, and this is Career Connect. I'm catching up with Sheila to ask her what she thinks resilience is and why it's important for graduates to be resilient. Hey, Sheila. Tell me, what is being resilient to you?
Resilience means being able to bounce back and being able to push beyond any boundaries.
And why is it important for you, especially as a student in journalism, to be resilient?
I think for me to be able to do what I'm required to do in my career, and also to be constantly pushing, and even though sometimes there are things that may come my way, but being able to push beyond any boundaries and any circumstances.
Okay, and what advice would you have for any young graduate or even a student who's really trying to do the best that they can and they're really struggling and they're really feeling not encouraged at the moment? What advice could you give them just to keep pushing through?
Basically, I think they should just believe in themselves, study hard. Even though it's hard, they should just motivate themselves, because you are your biggest motivator. I mean, if you can't motivate yourself, then people will pull you down.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
Catch the episode on resilience on Business Day TV Saturdays and Sundays at 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. And also join the conversation online, #Career Connect at Student Village and at BDTV. See you there. Hello and welcome back to Career Connect with me and Ziggy Mkhize. We're continuing our conversation speaking about what is your brand as a graduate, as a young professional where you're working, and most importantly, how do you remain resilient as things change in your workplace? Now, Jerry, before we went to the break, you gave some really great tips about things people need to have as part of their brand arsenal. When you're a graduate, when you're moving towards getting a new job, just some things you should work on and build up. You also did mention that the workplace that we are in changes a lot, and the speed of work is also rapidly changing. How does one remain relevant with the work they're doing?
So I'm seeing young graduates remaining relevant by really keeping up to date with their own free courses. So I think we've got to get out of this mindset of have degree, tick, done with studying, moving along. You've absolutely got to see, and we know that there are many websites, Sheila, you probably know them, Course Essay, many of those websites where you really can keep up to date. And reading all the latest articles. So in this world of dynamism and technology is really what are the tweaks and changes, and how can you read, keep up to date, do some free courses. And we can do courses, you and I, with Stanford University in the States tonight. So that's really the brilliance of what technology brings us. And it's this treadmill of continual learning and trying to be a step ahead of the game.
And for somebody who's watching this who has no idea or a clear picture of what being resilient is, what does resilience look like?
Okay, I love that question because people often think it's just bounce back. Yeah. There are three parts to resilience. And this really corresponds with your previous question around, how do we prepare ourselves? The first part is being prepared. So that changes are coming down the line, and it's not being the sitting duck waiting for those changes. So as you know, the industry sector and what's changing, to adapt to it, but being prepared for that adaptation. The second is the proverbial bounce back, and then the third is, hey, how do I bounce forward? Okay. So we're finding resilient teams will take risk, they will fail, and then they bounce back, and we call it thrive. They then bounce forward in a thriving kind of way. So we've got to be able to, in this dynamic VUCA world, take risks and know that we're going to fail.
And that's true. And failing is only when you decide not to bounce back. And then you've actually failed. But as long as you're prepared to keep getting up and keep moving
and take
forward,
the learning,
it's working out for you.
Yes.
Sheila, as a young graduate, what are some of your concerns, or just some of the things that you think about, and what keeps you resilient in your studies, and also just moving forward to make sure that you do graduate and you do become best within your particular field and industry?
What I think about at all times is because these days, it's not easy to find a job, So I ask myself if I'll be able to get the job that I studied for. And it's a challenge for me because sometimes I think of giving up and stuff, but then I try very hard to stay calm, to research more, and just do my best. And I study a lot. I just love studying.
And when it comes to coping with your workload, especially say now you gave your all in a particular assignment and it didn't go as planned, or you studied a lot for an exam and you didn't get the mark that you were hoping for, what are some of the things that help you to bounce back and, and keep going back for more?
And that actually happened last week. But it's fine. Because sometimes, as a student, we have a lot going on our minds and stuff. But then I try at all times to tell myself that, you can do better next time. And, I look at the things that made me fail or that made me lack, and then I work on them. And that's how I bounce back.
Well, I think that goes back to your point about thriving, the fact that you actually learn from the experience and you take those learnings and then you take that step to propel you forward.
Yes.
How do teams and individuals practically be resilient? What are there steps of resilience?
They are. In fact, we 2 years ago launched a book on this, and the book is called The Fab Quotient. So to give you some kind of context to it, we know that we are born with this thing called intellectual quotient, IQ. We all speak about emotional quotient, and we are saying in the world what we need for resilience is the Fab Quotient. And it's an acronym. So there are 3 practical tips here. There's fueling your body, there's activating your body and your brain, and then there's your behavior. And there's 2 parts to behavior: your authenticity, and we spoke about introversion there, and your ability to collaborate. So some very practical tips in terms of assignments and working long hours and maybe doing part-time work, some of our graduates, is that you definitely, number one, in terms of fuel, your brain requires good food. So you have got to snack every 2 to 3 hours because your brain...
Graduates aren't doing that.
They're not doing that. So take, if you're going into the library to study and do assignments, you need to take good snacks, and every 2 hours you need either nuts or dried fruit or real fruit or biltong or those kinds of things to snack, because your brain is about 2% of your body weight, but it requires 25% of the good glucose. Wow. So it really, it shrivels up if you're not eating well, it shrivels up if you're not drinking well, and you need about a glass of water for every 10 kilograms that you weigh. I'm thinking about running. So the practical tips under fuel are those: snacking and adequate hydration. Under the A for activate is that you have to exercise. The World Health Organization says about 150 high cardio minutes a week. But if we chunk that down to a daily basis, if you're doing 20 to 30 minutes a day, so that's jogging, that's a very brisk walk, it's going to the gym, it's in your bedroom doing a few squats, plank.
Taking the stairs at school?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Taking the stairs a couple of times. So why do we need the activate for our brain and resilience? Is that the brain, as a miraculous organ, requires a hormone which it can only produce when you exercise. Okay. And this hormone is called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. So it's like fertilizer for your brain, Sheila. You need that every day. So you've just had a bad assignment experience or a failure and you've now got to bounce back. You actually need the serotonin and the dopamine that come from exercise, but also this hormone, BDNF. And then the behavior stuff I like to speak about with students and graduates alike, because the world of work is so different, is that we forget that we require 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep a night to reboot this thing called the brain.
And that is quite interesting, because I think especially when you're still studying at university, there's that go, just so you can graduate and not sleep after the assignment or during the holiday. And then when you get to the working place, there isn't the holidays or after the assignment. It's work all the time. And you do get into certain corporate environments where there's a culture of being at the office until 10 p.m., coming back in at 7 a.m., working towards the deadline. How do you work around that?
So the way we work around that in terms of the stretch hours and the culture demands of business, always on, always connected, getting there at 7 in the morning, leaving to your point at 10 at night, is that you've actually got to look at behavior interrupters during the day. So the brain as this organ needs these little splices of blank time during the day. That sounds a little bit weird, but what you need to do is you need to actually sit and do some breathing techniques every hour. Or you spoke about taking the stairs earlier on, is that not be at your desk writing articles, Sheila, for 3 hours at a time. You've got to break up your day into these tiny little working splices and then activation splices. So resilience, you'll find you'll have a lot of energy at the end of the day if you have gone for a brisk 5-minute walk every hour on the hour, or taken the stairs, or had some way of breaking the monotony and the stress of sitting at a desk.
Okay, that does make lots of sense. I think there's so much to go into and to ask and to just really unravel this topic. For somebody who's watching this and they want to know, as a graduate or as a corporate who wants support for their teams to help them be resilient, how do they get a hold of you?
They go to our website. We've got a lot of free stuff on our website. You must go and download it. And I'll say it. It's www.resilientenergycenter. We spell it the American way, TER.com. Resilient Energy Center, theamericanway.com. Fab freebies on that website for you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, ladies, for your time. I really appreciate you joining us and telling us about branding and being resilient in your workplace.
Pleasure. Good luck.
Thank you.
For more great content on building your brand, being resilient, and just really being the best kind of professional you can be, stay tuned here on Career Connect, only on Business Day TV. Until next time, thanks for watching.